05:16 local time. Inside the CIC aboard USS Abraham Lincoln, the room carries a kind of silence that feels intentional. No music, no side conversations, only the steady breath of ventilation and the quiet ticking of a clock above the plotting table. Red light spreads across the consoles, flattening faces and turning rank insignia into dark outlines. A sonar operator leans closer to his screen, headset pressed tight against one ear. Clean lines roll across the display. Thermal layers, background noise, normal movement in the water, nothing that should draw attention. Then, for less than a second, the pattern changes. A return appears so faint it almost vanishes the moment it arrives. The operator says nothing at first. He rolls the buffer back and plays it again. The trace is still there. Short, narrow, unusual, not marine life, not flow noise, not bottom clutter. It sits just below the thermal layer, in the place where sound bends, softens, and hides. Stand by, he says quietly. No alarm sounds. No one turns sharply. In this room, certainty matters more than speed. He marks the bearing. The contact disappears. Above them, the flight deck is the opposite of quiet. Steel chains rattle as deck crews move with disciplined urgency. A pair of F/A-18S idle forward, engines whining as heat shimmers behind them. Yellow shirts signal with sharp, practiced motions. Wind sweeps across the deck, carrying the smell of jet fuel, salt air, and hot metal. Near the starboard side, an MH-60R Seahawk is being brought into position. Its rotors are locked, but the aircraft already looks ready, tense, waiting. Sailors secure tie-downs while their boots strike the steel deck, which vibrates with the carrier's steady movement through the water. The deck is loud, physical, alive. Down in CIC, it feels like another world. The sonar display refreshes. Nothing. The operator exhales slowly through his nose. Then the contact returns. Same bearing, same depth. A little clearer this time. He raises two fingers. The watch officer steps in close, eyes fixed on the display. No questions, just observation. Mark it, the officer says. A timestamp appears. The system logs the data with a quiet click. The contact does not move much. It does not close in. It does not pull away. It simply remains in a place where it should not be. Above, the Seahawk's auxiliary power unit spins to life, its pitch rising through the morning air. The rotor blades unlock and begin turning, slowly at first, then faster, cutting the air into a steady rhythm. Crew chiefs step back with hands raised. The helicopter shudders as it comes alive, vibration passing through the deck and into the carrier's massive frame. In CIC, no one mentions the aircraft. They do not need to. The sound carries faintly through the hull, a distant reminder that the ship is not only listening now, it is preparing. The sonar operator fine-tunes his settings. Passive only, no active sound, no announcement. No unnecessary signal. If something is below them, the last thing they want is to reveal how closely they are watching. The contact fades again. 10 seconds pass. 20. Then it returns, stronger than before. This time, there is no doubt. The officer of the watch gives a single nod. Subtle enough that nothing changes on the surface, but everything changes underneath. Maintain track, he says. No classification is spoken. No one says the word submarine yet. On the flight deck, the Seahawk lifts away. The rotors blur into a translucent disc as the aircraft rises cleanly, nose steady, sliding past the carrier's island and out over open water. The sound is overwhelming, raw, impossible to ignore. Sailors brace as it banks away from the ship. Up there, everything is motion and noise. Down here, everything is breath and numbers. The sonar trace holds for a few more seconds, then slips beneath the thermal layer again, disappearing as smoothly as it arrived. The operator does not chase it. He lets the system record the absence. Sometimes what disappears matters just as much as what remains. The watch officer scans the room. Calm faces, focused eyes, no raised voices, no dramatic gestures. If that returns, he says evenly, I want it logged down to the second. The operator nods. Somewhere beneath the carrier, in cold, dense water, where sound travels sideways and shadows stretch long, something is listening. And for the first time that morning, the crew of Abraham Lincoln understands that the quiet is not empty. It is shared. 05:29 local time. The contact comes back exactly the way it left. Quiet, precise, in the same place. Inside CIC, the sonar display refreshes and the trace settles once again just below the thermal layer. It holds depth with unnatural discipline. No wandering, no drift, no random fluctuation. It is steady in a way the ocean almost never is. The operator does not change his posture. He does not call across the room. He simply tags the bearing and watches. This time, the contact does not fade. 30 seconds pass. Then 40. It remains fixed, as if pinned to an invisible grid. The watch officer steps closer, eyes narrowing not in panic, but in calculation. A passive contact that holds position like this is not simply hiding. It is choosing where to be. Above, the Seahawk moves ahead of the carrier, skimming low over the water before climbing to its working altitude. The rotor noise fades with distance, replaced by the steady roar of jet engines cycling on the flight deck. Another launch sequence is already underway. Chains snap free, hands signal, steel answers steel. Below, CIC remains hushed. The sonar operator runs a comparison profile. Background noise, merchant traffic, marine life, natural movement, none of it matches. The signature is narrow, disciplined, filtered, almost too clean. Contact is maintaining depth, he says, voice level. No speed change, no reaction, no evasive movement. That detail lands heavier than any sudden maneuver would have. A vessel trying to vanish would usually sink deeper, reduce speed, change angle, or slide away. This one does none of that. It sits in the carrier's outer ring, close enough to matter, far enough to avoid forcing the moment. It is not leaving. It is observing. The watch officer checks the time. Logs update silently. A tactical picture begins to form, not of immediate danger, but of intent. On the flight deck, the noise rises again. An F/A-18 rolls forward, canopy down, the pilot's helmet reflecting the deck lights. Engines climb toward full power, the sound pressing against the hull like a physical force. The jet launches off the bow in a flash of heat and motion. For anyone topside, it is a reminder of mass, power, and momentum. For anyone in CIC, it is another variable. The contact remains unchanged. A second sonar operator cross-checks the signal from another array. Same bearing, same depth. The data aligns too cleanly to dismiss. The room does not tense, it narrows. This is no longer a question of whether something is there. It is a question of why it is staying. The Seahawk begins its search pattern, releasing the first sonobuoy. The splash is brief, almost polite, but on the acoustic picture, it opens a new circle of awareness. Another buoy follows, then another. They spread outward in a controlled fan, each one adding depth to the picture. Still, the contact does not move. The operator notes the detail that matters most. No reaction to the aircraft overhead, no sudden depth change, no shift in bearing. If this were a submarine trying to disappear, the helicopter alone should have been enough to force movement. The fact that nothing happens says more than noise ever could. The watch officer leans in. This contact is not running, he says quietly. No one disagrees. On deck, sailors brace against the wind as another aircraft taxis past. The carrier presses forward, massive and deliberate, its wake spreading wide behind it. From the outside, the scene looks routine, powerful, loud, controlled. Inside the ship's core, the routine is changing. The sonar operator marks another full minute of steady contact. That is when the understanding settles in. The submarine, because by now there is little else it can be, is not here by accident. It is not lost. It is not simply passing through. It is holding a position where it can hear everything. Every turn of the propellers, every course correction, every launch and recovery cycle, every rhythm of the carrier's operation. It is close enough to collect, far enough to test the edge. This is not simple presence. It is measurement. The officer of the watch gives one small nod. Continue passive, he orders. No active emissions. They will not announce themselves. Not yet. The submarine remains where it is, patient and methodical, waiting for the carrier to do what carriers do. Operate loudly, operate predictably, operate with confidence. And down in the water column, below the layer where sound bends and hides, something listens. Not because it is afraid of being found, but because it wants to know exactly how the United States Navy responds when it realizes it is not alone. Oh, 5:47 local time. The numbers change before the mood does. Inside CIC aboard USS Abraham Lincoln, a new line appears on the tactical display. Closest point of approach recalculates quietly, reducing distance in a way that turns miles into something more immediate. The circle representing safe separation tightens, not dramatically, not suddenly, but enough to cross a threshold everyone in the room understands. This is the distance where assumptions stop being useful. The sonar contact has not rushed forward. It has not pulled away. It has done something more unsettling. It has stayed steady while the carrier's own movement redraws the geometry. The operator tracks the bearing, eyes moving between depth bands and timestamps. The contact dips slightly, only a few meters, then stabilizes again. Not enough to disappear, not enough to suggest panic, enough to show intent. A human decision. The watch officer reads the board without comment. He does not need to ask what that adjustment means. In this water column, at this range, only one kind of platform corrects depth that cleanly. A submarine is trimming itself for position. Above, the Seahawk tightens its pattern. Sonobuoys fall in sequence, their splashes quickly swallowed by the carrier's wake. Each one opens another window into the sea, overlapping circles of listening that reduce uncertainty one layer at a time. The helicopter crew does not rush. They do not chase shadows. They fly the pattern as planned, methodical and exact, trusting the net to do what speed cannot. Back in CIC, the soundscape remains unchanged. Soft voices, the occasional tap of a key. The tension now lives in the margins, not in the noise. CPA under threshold, the operator reports. He does not raise his voice. No one else moves. This is the range where reaction time narrows, where posture and action become separated by only small changes in course, speed, and intent, where a moment can become decisive before anyone outside the room understands what happened. The contact gives nothing away. It does not accelerate. It does not reverse. It holds as if daring the geometry to complete itself. Another depth correction appears, slight but unmistakable. The submarine is not aligning to leave. It is aligning to preserve options. That is when the room tightens further. Not fear. Focus. The watch officer speaks again, still calm. Continue passive. No illumination, no active sonar, no sudden declarations. If the submarine wants to listen, it will listen in silence. On the flight deck, another jet roars into the sky. The carrier remains what it has always been. Loud, visible, unapologetic. A massive presence that does not pretend to be anything else. Below, the listening grows sharper. The sonar operator marks the contact's stability. No rough propulsion noise, no frantic maneuvering. This is not a crew reacting under pressure. This is a crew following a plan. The tactical picture fills in. Bearings overlap, routes narrow. Without anyone saying it aloud, the reality settles over the room. If this submarine intended to make a move, this would be the moment. And it does not. The Seahawk reports briefly. Sonobuoy pattern established. Acoustic data clean. No anomalies beyond the primary contact. That confirmation matters. It means the picture is honest. The contact is not a decoy, not terrain, not traffic, not a trick of the environment. It is exactly what it appears to be. The carrier adjusts speed, barely enough to feel, more noticeable to instruments than to anyone standing on deck. A small change. Just enough to bend the geometry. Just enough to make the submarine's carefully held position less useful without escalating the encounter. The submarine responds again, trimming depth to compensate. A chess move. The officer of the watch watches the exchange unfold through numbers and vectors. He does not smile. He does not frown. He simply notes the pattern. They are reacting to us. Not blindly, not aggressively, intelligently. The distance continues to compress, but the moment stretches. Every second without action adds weight to the decision being made on the other side. In the quiet beneath the carrier, where sound bends and pressure builds, the submarine holds its position at the edge of consequence. And inside CIC, everyone understands the same thing at the same time. At this range, no one is guessing anymore. 0613 local time. The air picture sharpens before the sea changes. High above the formation, a P-8 Poseidon settles into its lane. Its arrival is not dramatic. No announcement echoes through the ship. No public call marks its presence. It is felt only through the data now streaming into CIC aboard USS Abraham Lincoln. Clean numbers, tighter bearings, a clearer picture. The submarine is still there. Same bearing, same disciplined depth, still quiet. Inside CIC, the tactical display stops feeling abstract. Vectors align, timestamps sync. The solution does not flash or pulse. It simply appears the way certainty often does. No one celebrates. The watch officer reads the board once more, then looks to the acoustic team. The exchange is brief, professional, measured. It is not a request for permission. It is a confirmation that the moment has arrived. The carrier's movement remains steady. No abrupt turn, no dramatic speed change. Above deck, aircraft continue their cycles, loud and predictable. The constant mechanical thunder advertises the carrier's presence to anyone listening below. That is part of the point. The submarine has had time. It has listened to the rhythm. It has measured the pattern. It knows where it is. Now the Navy draws a line. The order is given without flourish. A single active ping. Not a search pattern. Not a sweeping announcement. Just a short, focused burst. Controlled, deliberate, unmistakable. The sound moves fast, cutting through the thermal layer in a narrow cone that leaves little room for ambiguity. For a fraction of a second, the sea answers with clarity. The submarine's hull returns the signal. Solid, metallic, real. In CIC, no one speaks. They do not need to. That ping is not meant to begin anything. It is not even a warning in the usual sense. It carries no spectacle, no immediate follow-up, no dramatic gesture. It says one thing only. We see you. The reaction is immediate. On the sonar display, the contact breaks its stillness. Depth changes sharply, far more than before. Speed increases. The once clean signature widens as propulsion noise rises. The submarine turns away from the carrier's axis, abandoning the geometry it had worked so carefully to maintain. In doing so, it gives up the one advantage it had left: silence. The data floods in. Bearing changes stack up. The trail stretches. The solution refines itself even further, not because the Navy pushes harder, but because the submarine now reveals more by moving. Above, the P-8 adjusts its track. Passive sensors collect the sudden change. Sonobuoy data tightens the net without another splash. The picture is complete. The watch officer nods once. No chase order follows, no dramatic escalation. The point has been made. On the flight deck, another jet launches, the sound roaring outward into the morning air. To sailors topside, nothing appears different. The carrier remains a machine in motion, relentless and loud, doing what carriers do. Below the surface, the calculation has changed. The submarine continues to withdraw, speed steady, heading deliberate. It does not zigzag. It does not pretend. It leaves cleanly, almost as if acknowledging the message it has just received. Inside CIC, logs update. Timestamps lock in. Acoustic files save automatically. Every second is preserved with clinical precision. No cheering, no raised voices. Just the quiet satisfaction of a system doing exactly what it was designed to do. The active ping does not repeat. It does not need to. That single burst marked the boundary between listening and exposure, between uncertainty and certainty. Submarines live on the far side of that boundary. Once crossed, the rules change. The Navy lets the contact go, not because it cannot follow, but because it does not need to. As the submarine fades from the display, its noise trailing off into deeper water, the room relaxes by degrees. Not relief, resolution. The watch officer looks up from the console. "Contact departing," he says evenly. It is not a declaration of victory. It is a statement of fact. In the quiet that follows, everyone in the room understands the same truth. That ping was not meant to start a confrontation. It was meant to end one. 0642 local time. The water settles first on the sonar display inside CIC aboard USS Abraham Lincoln. The noise floor returns to normal. The sharp edges that mark propulsion fade into a long, thinning trail, then disappear beneath the deeper layers of the ocean. The contact is gone. No sudden vanishing act, no final trick. Just a steady withdrawal until the sea becomes what it was before. Complex, crowded, and quiet enough to listen again. The watch officer marks the departure. Time, bearing, final range. The system logs everything automatically, indifferent to the significance of what just ended. To the software, it is data. To the people in the room, it is closure. No one applauds, no one leans back like the moment is finished. CIC does what it always does. When one moment passes, it moves on to the next. Above, the flight deck never slowed. Jets recover in sequence. Landing gear slams against steel. Arresting cables snap tight, then relax. Yellow shirts wave aircraft clear. Engines spool down and rise again. Deck crews move around each other with practiced precision, shouting over wind and exhaust, every motion sharp and efficient. From the outside, it looks like a normal morning at sea. That is not an accident. The carrier maintains course and speed. No public signal is sent. No dramatic message goes beyond the horizon. The submarine is allowed to leave without being followed into a larger moment. Not because it escaped, because it was dismissed. Inside CIC, acoustic technicians begin the quiet work that follows every serious encounter. Files are tagged, synchronized, and archived. Every second of sound, from the first faint return to the moment the propulsion noise rose, is preserved. Not for headlines, not for theater, for understanding. The officer of the watch reviews the timeline once more. Passive detection, pattern established, geometry refined, single active ping, contact disengaged, no spectacle, no raised voices, no public display. This is how modern sea control often works, not through drama, through certainty. On the bridge, the captain remains composed. He does not address the crew. He does not ask for anything beyond what procedure requires. The ship continues forward, massive and unhurried, its presence filling the ocean around it in a way no stealth could ever imitate. The power of a carrier strike group is not only in what it can do, it is also in what it makes unnecessary. Below the surface, the submarine has already slipped into deeper water. Its mission, whatever it was, now carries a cost it likely did not expect. Its presence was confirmed, its behavior was mapped, its reaction under pressure was observed in real time. It came to listen, and then it was made to reveal itself. Back aboard Abraham Lincoln, routine continues uninterrupted. Meals are served, watches rotate, aircraft are refueled and prepared. The ship's immense machinery hums on, indifferent to the moment that briefly tightened the space around it. That is the point. In the US Navy, restraint is not hesitation, silence is not uncertainty, and control does not always announce itself with force. Sometimes control is a single sound, brief, deliberate, impossible to ignore. A sound that tells the other side everything it needs to know. As the carrier cuts forward through open water, leaving only wake and noise behind it, the ocean closes again. Layers settle. Currents resume their slow, patient drift. To anyone watching from a distance, nothing happened. And that is exactly how the Navy prefers it. Because in the calculation of modern naval power, the most decisive encounters are often the ones that end before the world ever hears about them, leaving only one question behind. If you were in command, would you escalate the moment, or would you let 1 second of clarity do all the work?